The one type of watch I was hesitant to collect early in this hobby was vintage chronograph watches. Even though they are one of the most remarkable timepieces to own, they are not so fun to work on when there's an issue or when it's time to service one. There are several types of chronograph watches, from a simple 1-minute timer like an Omega Geneve Chronostop to an immensely complicated 3-register with a triple calendar plus the moon phase like a Universal Geneve Tri-compax. But what they all have in common are service costs is not cheap, and replacement parts are challenging to locate. Eventually, my interest in owning one overcame my thoughts of not owning one. I remember my first few vintage chronographs are from the 1940s and the 1950s, such as a Zenith Pilot, a Breitling Premier, a Maido Multi-Center, and a few others. Sadly, to keep my business running, I had to sell all of them except for one piece, which is this Seamaster on the reference CK14364. Since then, I have tried to reward myself with a new chronograph watch now and then. This way, it makes my passion more enjoyable and motivates me to work harder. Working hard is at the back of my ears when I enjoy doing something. So let me introduce myself to anyone visiting this channel for the first time. My name is Derek, aka Sal, the Omega Enthusiast. I've been creating watch content on YouTube for a few years, but you can find me on Instagram, where I have about 120k followers. Or if you're looking to own a professionally serviced timepiece, then give my website a visit. You can find the links in the description box below. I also noticed that many of my viewers are not subscribers. So please, if you can, to help content creator like myself to subscribe to this channel. And at the same time, click on that thumbs up like button. They are free to do and will help boost this channel's algorithm. Since there's a lot to learn concerning vintage chronograph watches, it would not be possible to squeeze everything into one brief video. Instead, this video will focus on a few examples of what I currently have on hand. Hopefully, they can provide some entertainment to you guys. So without further ado, let's get started. This first piece is one of my favorite in my collection. I bought it from a collector in South America, but strangely, whenever I post this watch on my Instagram account, it gets the least likes compared to my other Omega chronograph. Whatever the reason may be, I still find this piece desirable and suiting to my eyes, and that's what matters. The one thing I learned about watch collecting is don't fall into the trending loophole. Anyhow, this Omega watch dates to 1946 according to its movement serial number, and it is under case reference CK2451 with a 35mm diameter excluding the crown. This reference was first introduced in 1946 and lasted until around 1957. Omega made some slight changes to the case and replaced the unsigned crown with the logo later in the 1950s. That's why certain CK2451 references come with a dust cover over the movement when you open the case back. You will also notice that 1948 or earlier CK2451 comes with a caliber 27 CHRO C12 T2. That's quite a long caliber number to remember, and later become a caliber 321, which is a lot easier to remember. Of course, both caliber are the same, but Omega started a new caliber numbering system after 1948. To view my Omega 321 chronograph collection, click on the link above after watching this video. This following piece is also an Omega, and this one dates to 1940 under reference OT2078. I always wanted an Omega chronograph with a predecessor caliber of the 320 or 321 movement. This one housing a caliber 28.9 is precisely what I was looking for. So even though I am not really a gold person, I can't resist the beauty of this timepiece. The solid 18K gold case with the well-aged factory original finish black dial is a perfect combination. And because I have a small wrist, the 33mm diameter case, excluding the crown, fits flawlessly on my wrist. But the concern about owning this watch is that parts are near impossible to find for a caliber 28.9. And before you hunt for a a 28.9 Omega Chronograph or the bigger version with a caliber 33.3, make sure you save up a 5-figure budget. Unfortunately, these guys have become more expensive by the day. The following 3 pieces are my vintage Benrus Sky Chief chronograph from the early 1940s World War II era watches made for an American pilot. Ever since I saw my friend own one like this black dial piece, I totally fell in love with this watch and I had to find one for myself. Another key to building a remarkable collection is patience, as it took me exactly 3 years to find this black dial Benrus. Somehow the other 2 just shortly came afterward. There's also a 4th version of the Sky Chief, but I decided to pass due to its larger case size. The following 3 pieces come with a one of the best chronograph movement, a Vozu 72. The same caliber is used in some vintage Rolex Daytona watches as well. So if you're interested to learn more about the Benrus Sky Chief, click on the link above to watch that episode. This next piece I purchased from a collector in Quebec, Canada. He said it's a JaegerLeCoultre made for the Canadian market, and to my surprise, it also carries the famous Vozu 72 caliber. I know the US market JaegerLeCoultre will say LeCoultre on the dial, so I assume Jaeger only on the dial is for the Canadian market. Please comment below if you know anything additional about this Jaeger only dial. Something you may notice about my chronograph watches is their dial are simple to read and not so busy. Suppose anyone who has known me long enough will know that aside from vintage Omega, I am a fanatic of vintage JaegerLeCoultre watches. It took me a little over 5 years to come across this beauty. I prefer to take my time and pay a premium for something I like rather than rushing and making an impulsive purchase. This next batch is my 3 Hoyer chronograph watches, with this Black Brigade piece dating to 1936, and the other 2 are from the 1940s. Even though all 3 pieces carry a Lenaron caliber 13 movement, the Black Brigade has a case diameter of 32.5 millimeters, and the other 2 have a case diameter of 35 millimeters excluding the crown. Old Hoyer watches are really attractive, but the chronograph model are one of my favorite. So even though I have more 3-register chronograph watches in my collection, I seem to enjoy wearing the 2-register pieces more often. And that takes us to my latest addition, this Ebel chronograph watch. A couple of things in common among my chronograph watches are that their brands are over 100 years old and still in business today. Like this Ebel watch, the company was founded in 1911 and still produces luxury watches today. You may find this Ebel has a similar case design to the 1946 Omega I showed earlier. It takes a Lamania CH27 movement, also known as an Omega caliber 320, which is the 2-register version of an Omega 321. Are you a bit confused? Well, let me clarify a bit. Omega caliber 320 and 321 are Lamania made movement. And you will find brands such as Ebel, Tissot, and Milan, to name a few, also uses one of these 2 caliber in their watches. So we've come to the end of this video. I have just presented my chronograph watches to you guys, which is only a tiny fraction of what is out there. These are only examples of what I enjoy collecting, but if you take the time to do some research, you will discover hundreds of more beautiful selection to choose from. Make sure to smash that thumbs up like button and consider subscribing to this channel. If you get to choose one piece from this video, which piece would you wear? And do you own any vintage chronograph watches yourself? Let me know in the comment below. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. I look forward to seeing you in the following episode.